Well, hello again, Steve here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about this image once again. I talked about this a few videos back, and it's a funnel, sort of an approach to how it is that we get what we want in life. And the more I think we understand this concept, the better off we can be, the more effective we can be. Now, this idea that I'm going to talk about today is a little bit more of a different, nuanced approach to what I talked about before. And it came about as a result of going to an event and hearing a friend of mine speak. And this is somebody who I knew from the time she just got started in public speaking. She was very nervous. Now she's much more confident. And there was a talk about an opening, a body, and a conclusion at this event, and how we form it, how it is that we form what it is that we're saying in a structured format. And if you remember, what we talked about here as a funnel in the idea of what it is that we're trying to get people involved with what we're doing, whether we're dating, whether we're in business, whether we're looking for a job or whatever, we want people to get interested in what we're doing, right? So in a speech, that's what they talk about. They talk about having an opening, which is the old tell system, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So it has a wrapping up effect, but they have to be related. It has to be a flow through in order for people to get on board with the idea, right? So what we do in our funnel system, right? We approach the world as a big wide world, and we want people to come into our lives in some way, to do business with us, to date us, to give us a job, to work with us, or whatever. So what we have in the marketing terminology is we have a hook, right? A hook out here is something, I know you can't see that very well, it's my marker's not working very well. So we have a hook out there to entice people so that they see it. That's kind of like the opening. The opening has to be intriguing in some way. It has to g- gain a sense for people to look at it. You see people who are very good on YouTube, they put a funny thumbnail, an intriguing thumbnail, a colorful thumbnail, or something like that. I mean, we're kind of like crows in a way. You put out something colorful and they're interested in it, right? There has to be something there in order for them to see. I mean, women know this very well. Women have the whole, what is that makeup is called? It's called the tools of the trade, essentially, right? It's to put something to make themselves even more attractive, right? They're already attractive, right? Maybe, but maybe they shine up their lips. Maybe they do a little bit to their around their eyes, and maybe they do their hair in a certain way, and they dress in a certain way. And men do it, of course, too. And men put on suits and they, different perfumes and what have you, and colognes or whatever, to create a hook, to get people to turn over to look, right? And then in a speech, of course, there is the message. It's one thing to get somebody's attention, but there must be something more. And another reason why this appealed to me in this concept when I heard it this morning is because it would happen to me twice this week. I was talking to somebody recently. He wanted me to see if I could help him with his business, help him with his to grow his business. And I asked him, I said, what do you think is the number one thing that would help you? What could you improve that would improve your business? And he was a very insightful guy, and he clearly said to me, it's my messaging. Messaging. So in other words, he's able to put out the intrigue, but he's not able to capture to maintain that intrigue. Because after all, if we can see this funnel here, it's not like that plastic funnel I showed you in the last video, which is used to put oil in a car, which is impermeable. This is a very porous funnel, if you know, because people will exit all over the place. So this is kind of a virtual siding to it. This ramp. It's virtual because it is only held in place by the accuracy, the definition, and the clarity and the intrigue and so on that is built up by the message. What that means is we can't just use pure logic. There's much more to it involved. There is, if we just say, hey, this thing is so great, you should buy it. In other words, we're going straight from here to here. Because this is the outlet. This is where people date us. This is where people buy our product. This is where people give us a job and so on. But the process in the middle is the message, right? And is that is forms of rhetoric. In a way, it can be a bit of everything. But rhetoric is the art of persuasion. Because we can believe very strongly that what we're putting out here as a flashy little blinking light. Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And it's related, it's all related, of course. It's generally has to be. At least it has to hook the pain points or the pleasure points that ultimately can be delivered upon here. Can be helped, can be satiated in some way, right? But this is the rhetoric in the middle, or the devices that we use. All sorts of stuff. Storytelling, PowerPoints, demonstration, humor, attractiveness, good upstanding character, and all of the believability, all of these things add. Testimonials, what other people are saying, and so on. So if somebody out here is skeptical of what we're saying, because we're saying it and it thinks we have a vested interest in gaining from here, and yet other people are starting to talk about it and bringing in, saying, yeah, that's actually what this guy's saying is actually true. It happened to me or whatever. He's a good guy. He's whatever. He's an upstanding whatever. She is. Whatever it is, then it adds credibility and it holds in place this funnel. Because after all, this begins to narrow down the process decision. Here it's just intrigue, but it's intrigue based on something. It's based on, so we have bait out here, as we said before. Sometimes we have many different forms of bait to get many different aspects of people's interests out there. Like a big, you see those trollers, those fishing trollers? They got a whole bunch of long lines going out with different bait all over the place. They're trolling across, and of course if we all want people to be involved with what we're doing, in a way we're trolls. We're out there trolling, trying to see what works. And when we hit on something that works as a bait, or people take the bite, then we have to make sure we deliver in terms of the messaging all the way through, so that they eventually come out the other end as happy participants in what it is that we're doing. But it has to be, down at the end here, there has to be the connection from what began. And as I said before, we've all probably known experiences where we, put out the bait in some way. We've created, or other people have put out the bait, and we've taken the bait, and then we end up in a deal down at the other end, which is not really what the bait promised, right? How many of us have dated people who they don't end up being exactly like what they presented themselves as in the beginning, right? So that's why I think it's important in terms of long-term stability, in terms of our relationships, whether they be, one-on-one intimate relationships, friendships, business relationships, all of these sorts of things, is that whatever we put out as our hook and our bait is built upon and fortified in the messaging process, so that people would stay in that process. And then when they come out the other end and make a decision to get involved, that is satisfying the initial interest. And so long as it continues to, then they stay. They become repeat customers, long-term relationships, and so on. Or else if it continues, if it breaks down at some point and it's not addressed, because this is an ongoing process, ongoing messaging, because people change and they become more refined, more nuanced, want more, and so on. But if that's not continued to be satisfied, then they leave there. There's always an out, right? There's always an out, because these are voluntary relationships that we're involved in. So just a concept to think about, and it related directly to what I was listening to today in the speech, in the concept of building a speech and how we communicate, which is to have an opening, something intriguing to start it, to get people's attention, right? And then build upon that interest, like sort of to give direction, to give something that somehow there can be a solution to that interest. There can be some sort of resolve. You see it even in jokes. There's an interest there, and you build it up, and then there's a punchline. The punchline delivered on the interest initially. It's all kind of built like that. So It's something to think about, and it's certainly a valuable concept, I believe, in terms of building whatever it is that we're building, in terms of asking people to get involved, and then, making sure that we deliver on the promise, in other words, made. Hey, I'll be your friend, but if I'm not really a friend, it's kind of phony, right? And of course, people just leave. So, something to think about. And if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. And please comment in the box below. Ding the bell and all those good things. And if you have to get a hold of me with a question, you can go to innergenie.com and click on the contact button there and say hello or ask a question. Talk again soon. Bye for now.